Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Foliage Lasso tool. We're going to show where to access the Lasso tool. We're going to explain what the Foliage Lasso tool does. We're going to discuss and demo how to lasso select foliage. And then we're going to discuss and demonstrate actions we can perform on lassoed foliage types. So firstly, how do we access the lasso tool? You got to make sure that you are in the foliage mode right here. And then along the left-hand side, we're moving our way on down. We just finished up our discussion on the select tool. The next one down here is your lasso tool. Now, the lasso tool is a lot like your selection tool, although, like in other programs, other computer programs, it allows you to get more specific about the types of things that you are selecting. Now, as you saw with the select tool, you have these options, these actions to select all, select invalid, deselect all, etc. Those same action buttons are present over here in your lasso select tool. You can select all, select invalid, deselect all, etc. So let me just select all, and you can see how it highlights all my different foliage here. I can deselect all, just as before. I can even select invalid, and I did place some foliage off of my landscape here just to prove that that, in fact, will select an invalid foliage. It's not placed upon anything. And so that's all the exact same as your selection tool. Now, where the lasso select tool really comes in handy is in selecting specific instances that you're trying to lasso in. You got your bubble brush out here, and this is what allows you to select specific foliage instances. Now, how does this work? Well, unlike the select tool, where it didn't matter if you had anything checkboxed over here, in the lasso tool, it does matter what you have selected. You are basically saying, I only want to lasso, or that is select, a given foliage type. So if I check on my FT grass here, you can see I've got my bubble. Now if I left click, I'm only selecting my grass types. I'm not selecting my rocks or my trees, and I can get very specific about which specific foliage type grass I am selecting. I'm not selecting this over here, just what's highlighted in yellow. Now I'm going to deselect all here. I can select multiples if I want to, so let me check on the rock as well. So I got my grass and my rock. So now if I left click, you can see that I'm not only grabbing my grass, but also any rock instances that I am moving over. Now left clicking will select things. If you hold down shift and left click, that will deselect. Okay? Now we've got some other filter checkboxes up here, and I prepared some stuff ahead of time in recording this video to demonstrate these. You can see I've got filters for landscape, foliage, static mesh, translucent, and BSP. Now this is going to filter what you can lasso select here based upon what is checked and what's not. Now this is considered our landscape out here, so this is checked on. So it's basically saying yes, you can lasso select any foliage instances on a landscape. Now also, I've placed a BSP geometry brush out here. This is this gray box out here, and just to make sure you are understanding what this is, if I go back into placement mode under the geometry tab, I placed the geometry box brush out here, scaled it up in size, and that is what is known as our BSP geometry. So I placed some foliage grass on top of this, and with this checkbox checked, you can see that I can left click and select the grass placed upon this BSP geometry brush. I've got to have grass selected here as well. If I Control Z and undo that and uncheck my grass and rock, you can see I don't even see my bubble out here. Let me turn my grass back on. You can see I do have my bubble back. But if I check off my BSP, my geometry, you'll see that I still won't get my bubble. Even though I've got grass selected, I'm basically saying here that, hey, I cannot lasso select any foliage on my geometry. So that's why you will not see the bubble in this case. Okay, likewise, this out here, this yellow-ish thing, this is a static mesh. This is actually one of the tables in your starter content scaled up to be rather large. Now, I've currently got my static meshes set to be true, that I can lasso select grass that is placed upon a static mesh. So I will see my bubble here, and I can left click and grab some of these instances here. If let me deselect all here. I uncheck this, even if I've got grass selected, you can see now I don't see my bubble brush out here, and I can't select those instances. Okay, let me just check these back on. I'm just going to run through the BSP and static meshes right now. Foliage and translucent, that'll do the same thing if you've got any of those sorts of things with meshes placed upon those, but I just wanted to drive home the point that these filters are specific to those types of things. Okay, next let's talk about the different actions that you can take once you have lasso selected something. So I'm going to go ahead, jump over here, lasso select, left click, some foliage, and you can see that I've got my little widget out here. And if I left click on this, you can see that I can move this to the left. I can move this to the right in any of the directions. I can bring it up into the air, and then I can tap that end key to snap it on down to the ground. I can also hit the space bar here. I can rotate it. I can hit the space bar again. I can scale it. And lastly, if you wanted to, you can also duplicate this. So if I go back to my 3-arrow widget here by pressing the space bar, holding down Alt, left clicking and dragging, that will also bring out some duplicates of what you got selected there. Alright guys, so that is going to do it for our lasso select tool. Very similar to the select tool, but it allows you to get a little bit more specific about what you're selecting. Guys, that'll do it all for this one. We will see you in the next video.